과장이신 이영훈 교수님께 넘기도록 하겠습니다.
네, 감사합니다. 이영훈입니다. Well, I think before we jump right into the heart of the topic, we during the keynote speech, many interesting ideas were presented to us. But one of the ideas was whether the term smart TV is the right term to use in describing the internet-connected television services. Well, this is where I would like to start with. Basically, what do we mean by smart TV? What are the major components? Who are the major players? And we'll just go freely. Okay.
Shall I start?
Yes, thank you.
Well, personally, I have been experienced in developing the smart TV related technology from in the early of 20s, and even though the meaning of the smart TV changed so much, I want to divide the TV development cycle into three or four stages. Everybody in this room should clearly understand and have experience in watching TV from the early years of digital age. We call it the simple dumb TV. Then, due to the internet development, the second stage can be categorized into menu-driven watching experience, and the third one can be named as user-customized experience, and the last one is user-creative, or the user can make his own program by mix and match, giving some users preference to the TV service devices. So having said that, then I just want to put the smart TV as into between the user customized and the user created TV watching experience. Even other speakers can define the smart TV as different way. Well, simply as all we have experience in the smartphone. Smartphone is simply a PDA and plus some new user experience and service design. So I want to define the smart TV as a simple TV, but with new user experience and new service design. Thank you very much.
It's a very interesting viewpoint because this leads us to think whether after smart TVs, are we going to move on to the real all user created content business? Well, I mean, leaving that question aside, yes, Mr. Simon. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I'd like to add a little bit to that. I think taking what Reed said this morning, if you actually think about the definition, there's another definition that comes in English called elegant. And it's interesting because if you think about what elegant is, an elegant solution is a simple solution to a complex problem. Smart TV has the potential to be very complex. A television that now takes on the personality of a number of different services simultaneously, more services than television has previously had to take on. Applications, web services, games, one of the most important categories. Keep in mind that in most mobile environments, paid downloads games are roughly 40%. So games are important. But finally, and probably most importantly in the future, a topic I think would be worth talking about, is the idea that television itself is about video. It's about watching television. So the question is, can we create elegant ways to have consumers personalize and interact with television while we're watching television? Many regulations today prevent interactivity simultaneous to TV watching, but I think over the next decade we'll see those particular regulations change and adopt as our smart TVs have more capabilities. But overarching all of this is making sure that the experience of smart TV doesn't violate that definition of elegant, that ultimately elegant is the simple solution to the complex problem, that the user experience becomes an ideal one representing what TV means to us, which is to relax.
Thank you, Mr. Simpkins. Well, your definition seems to focus more on the simplicity and elegance, and maybe not on the moving forward aspect. And yes, Mr. Tapisier.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm from the broadcaster's side, and I've seen the development of what we call now smart TV for a certain time now. My question about smart TV is that I have the feeling that we are building this term because the customer promises were not very clear. I mean, what do people get when they buy a smart TV? I think this is the main question. I'm afraid that as the market is now, we don't have a homogeneous experience as a consumer when we buy a smart TV from brand A, B, or C or D. And there are plenty of manufacturers that are proposing their own flavor of what is a smart TV. And for the end consumer, it's not very simple to decide, yes, I want a smart TV, because he doesn't know exactly what he will get at the end.
Yes. Contrary to what Mr. Hastings had proposed as with regard to the definition of smart TV, I'm sensing that our panelists have a more diverse idea about what smart TV is. Mr. Sasakawa.
Yes. So good morning. So I agree with the other panelists in terms of it's about smart TV provides a better experience. And I think the intelligence is key, not only to be able to play back, to render, to decrypt, to be able to do all the things you need to do to play back the video content or the application, but the intelligence is there also to allow the flexibility for consumers to use the TV as an intelligent device. So that allows each device to be able to communicate to each other. It's not just the playback, but it's the smart TV device being able to communicate with the tablet or the set-top box or other devices. And when you have that intelligence and you have that capability, it brings forward some new applications and new experiences. So it's not just about the playback, it's about how it communicates within this home ecosystem.
Yes, I do agree, because the general definition about smart TVs that most people go by is that smart TVs are a bit more advanced than IPTVs in that they're more open, and we can use the web, right? Okay, so I guess we've come to a general consensus about what smart TV is. I would like to move on to what services and technologies are involved in providing the consumer the experience that they would that they would be satisfied with. Anybody? Yes, Mr. Simkins.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we face as an industry is that the ecosystem today for smart TV is fairly complex. As we talked about earlier this morning, there is more than one framework. There are the major frameworks, and there are cloud services, application developers, devices, browsers, TV synchronization applications, like Shazam and Into Now that are emerging in Flingo, games, content publishing, companies like Aceto Broadband and Flingo, MiniWeb, second screen applications that merge the personal devices like tablets and phones with the TV. There's search, of course, Google, but other companies like Blinks that do search for entertainment content. And then there are lean back or more relaxed applications as well, YouTube, Redux, and Blinks. So I think overall what our challenge will be is to identify commonality amongst the manufacturers, identify some mechanism to reduce the complexity of the overall ecosystem to enable us to gain some scale. So one of the final points I'll make is that there seems to be an ultimate differentiation or kind of a looming battle between what we'll call the IT companies, companies like Apple and Google, and the TV manufacturers, Samsung, LG, and others in other countries. And I actually think that we have to think about this a little bit differently as software becomes the more important component, and leverage the strengths of these different players by creating some commonality in this ecosystem and reducing the number of overall components.
Thank you, Mr. Simkins. I know your company manufactures or is developing many products that are trying to make the user experience more satisfying. If you could tell us a little about that, please.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that, and I'll be talking about this afternoon more, so I don't want to take too much time, but clearly one of the things that we believe is that the user experience has to both be sophisticated and capable of supporting a wide range of applications, but it also has to be simple to use, instinctive and innate. Think about the mouse. In 1984, when Apple brought the mouse to the computer, it transformed the computer from a productivity tool to an entertainment tool and to a consumer device. The idea of pointing is an instinctive human behavior. When Apple introduced the iPhone, Apple transformed the phone and made it a personal portable computer by bringing pointing and touch to the phone. And likewise, the Android environment, the Android devices do the same. What we believe at Hillcrest is, and our partners as well, that this concept of pointing on television has the ability to transform the user experience on television and create a more simple and dynamic environment. So if you would, certainly later we'll be talking about this this afternoon.
Would anybody like to add to this? Well then, I think one of the reasons why we have such so-called confusion about the definition is because of one factor that you mentioned, Mr. Simkins, which is that there are telcos, and there are IT companies, and then there are content companies that are all trying to get in or trying to get a piece of the action, if you will. And maybe that's why it is not easy for us to come to, speak at a on a same level when we're talking about smart TVs. So my next question deals with that, which is what kind of different services do you think are provided by different platform providers depending on where they come from?
Okay, today you guys explained about the concept at first, but we are already a little bit confused what kind of smart TV it is. But actually, Dr. An said it is just a simple TV, and also you mentioned about the ecosystem of a smart TV and cloud service-based, and also in the keynote speech, the CEO of Netflix also talked about the software like HTML5 or JavaScript, something like that. So today, I would like to focus on the business model. So if you allow just 10 minutes, let me stand up, just present 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. So the business model is changing of the TV industry actually. In terms of the uses, access, and development, and a lot of gentlemen already talked about this phenomenon. So especially in terms of the access, so somebody on the floor before this session asked about the network explosion. So especially, it is very expected actually that the managed networks will be very better chance than in the past, actually, but exploding data traffic should be a good news to the telco industries, but in fact, it is not. Why? Let me show you the data on the right side of the slide. Telco operators has the lowest performance until now. So let me explain at the end of my presentation. I will tell you two issues involved in these business models. So regarding the service development, we just talked about the user experience and the concept of the TV. The smart TV is not the smartization of the TV itself. It's the synchronization and the hybrid service of the TV and the internet. So recently, somebody already talked about the end screen. So main strategy is dominated by the possibility of this end screen. We have three parts: synchronization and only OTT or application store. So in the US, especially on Netflix, already lead the market by introducing the OTT service, or IT companies like Google TV also integrate their innovation process with the business model. And also the TV manufacturer like Samsung, LG, and Apple TV also integrate their innovation process with their hardware business model. In this session, I cannot judge you what kind of business model will be winning in near future. But I just can say, in this business ecosystem, just the TV sectors, likely development in 5 years or in 10 years can be explained just the three scenarios. First scenario is the web condition cannot disrupt the TV. The OTT is only possible on the smart TV. So we say the code cutting. And second one is ad-funded business model migration is possible on the TV, on the web TV. And third scenario is those kind of niche market could be niche market or just failed, and pay TV industry is still going there. So in the first scenario, we think some sound business model could be, it's a pay business model. It's not the, actually the advertising funded model. If so, the content holders probably, they can, their content online, and they also create their own content application and sell directly or indirectly via OTT like Netflix. Probably that kind of content could be very cheaper, much cheaper than the pay TV industries offer. In this environment, probably sound business model is just subscription fee-based VOD service. And in second scenario, no, it could be changing. So we can think of some drastic migration of TV advertising to the web TV, where we can imagine the stagnation of the pay TV. The pay TV industry doesn't move anymore. And just the success of the connected TV and probably economies of scale all together contribute to persuading the content holders to deliver their content on the public high-speed internet, not the premium network. Then probably market benefits from this ability, and IT companies' delivery platform, we say the cloud-based platform, become the de facto sellers, de facto enablers of online advertising space. But lastly, we can think of just the status quo. You know, the pay TV's self-smartization, like a smart set-top box, the market failure of connected TV, not the market failure, but just the niche market of the connected TV. And probably the TV program providers or channel providers' strong control over the programming right could help maintain the status quo. Then probably IT companies, they can't offer any ready-made content. They just stick to the long-tail content. And then thanks to their smartization of the probably actually triggered by the IT companies, the pay TV market's growth is driven by their own new interactive service. So we don't know what kind of business model will win. Whoever leads the market, probably sound business models of TV can be emerging. And after keeping those three feasible scenarios, just so we can imagine what kind of event next year, just next coming year. So we are expecting now Apple's TV set introduction, for instance. So at this moment, let me focus to the Apple TV, iTV. That means Apple already introduced the new Apple TV. That Apple TV is the scenario 1. But after introduction of IPTV, that means it's a scenario 2, you know? Then just after the introduction of ITV, we should watch the stock price of the Apple and also other stock price of incumbent pay TV operators. You know, just after the announcement of ITV, if stock price is going up, and the stock price of Comcast is going down, then probably sound business model will be the ad-funded business model. But in conclusion, let me conclude with two issues on the basis of my opinion. The first one is the content issue. If the TV advertising really moved to the web, the TV channel providers, I mean the program providers would have the weakest link to the web. Well, HBO and ESPN is very positive, but other program providers like Discovery is very reluctant to give their content to the IT companies right now. So then they probably face double threats. So new entrance threat, and the second one is the content holder and the premium VOD providers would cooperate. So for channel providers, in my opinion, who currently make big money from the pay TV industry, probably the move to the web could be very dangerous. So second issue is the network issue. So nowadays, the pay TV industry is based on the premium network. It's a network-enabled walled garden business model. So IT companies like Apple and Google will have the revenue share only with content providers. It means that, in contrast to telcos suffering from the revenue traffic decoupling, the upsurge of internet traffic translate into increased revenue stream of IT companies. So just take a look at this diagram. You just can see the money stream. The consumer pays the broadband fee to the telcos, right? And the content providers probably have some revenue share with the IT companies, the enabler of the smart TV. But this money not goes to the telcos. So that means the telcos are supposed to ask that companies to share the traffic burden because the telecom company just invests big money for the network. So, in the past or current, we say the internet network is just many platforms. But in near future, Netflix is widespread all over the world. Then it is not anymore many platform. It is just a few to many platform. It's like a pseudo broadcasting. Then the internet network, the concept was internet network must be changed. And then internet network enabled TV or media ecosystem needs a new funding source for growth. Yeah. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Park. We know what kind of company Dr. Park is from, and she has made a very valid statement about the ISP companies and the telephone companies, and some of the models that she has proposed to us seems to focus on the existing businesses like content providers and ISPs, and what they could do to cope with, or maybe even defend their turf. And Mr. Sasakawa would like to say something about this.
Yes, so I think you'll hear numerous discussions throughout today on the different environment, the different world of the service provider, the premium pay TV, compared to the consumer electronic, over-the-top, online type of world. And there are many trade-offs between the two, and it's hard to predict how things will change in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think the focus really is about how to bridge the two together. There are I think there's a whole list of obvious services that will drive the industry, both industries, forward. But I think the key objective is to bring them together. So having this notion of play any content on any device, anytime. People have been talking about it for years. But in order for the CE manufacturers like smart TVs, the tablets, the smartphones to become a part of this ecosystem and work within the service provider world, there needs to be first and foremost this consistent UI, this consistent user interface, this consistent experience that folks have been talking about that allows that experience to span across all these different consumer electronic and service provider devices. I talk to service providers on a weekly basis about what they want to do, and they want to work with these other devices, not just the set-top boxes and the gateways of the world, but they want to make it a seamless experience across the different devices. So what is required to enable that is a platform that allows the services, the infrastructure, and these devices to all communicate together so that you can have these companion-like device experiences where you watch it on your tablet, and then you can fling it over and watch it on your TV, on your 10-foot screen, whether it's a smart TV or connected to a TV connected to a set-top box. So a platform is required to enable that, because what the platform allows you to do is allows you to have the software to interface to the cloud, because the cloud computing allows you to have this rich, consistent experience, allows you to have these new services like advanced advertisement, companion devices, device synchronization. And so what Cisco is working with folks throughout the world is to have this platform that bridges the two worlds together, the consumer electronics and the service provider, and is agnostic of a specific platform from an SP or a CE manufacturer.
Yes. In smart TV, platform is very important, and it is one of the key elements as to who will be the leader or the main benefactor, maybe even of smart TV development. And yes, Mr. Simpkins, you would like to say something.
I'd like to just bridge off what Jeff said. I totally agree with him. I think we don't have to think of them as one or the other. And there's always, consumers always migrate to the experience that's easiest. If we make it more difficult for the consumer to get at the content that they're interested or the applications that they're interested in consuming, then they're going to simply move to another platform. And we have to think about smart TV as in some ways, a user interface hub for the home. We are still making the best screens and the best displays in the home, and there are still more televisions in the home that showcase really high-quality content and have the potential to do things that haven't been done before. There's no reason why a move towards a more integrated experience that is personalized that uses a combination of over-the-top services with broadcast services doesn't ultimately evolve. And as Jeff said, the only way that's going to evolve is to have a unified experience based on the cloud that has a common development environment. Because where we're going in the future is to platforms that are differentiated by software, not hardware. Over time, hardware becomes commoditized, software makes the distinction. And so it's really important that we're able to create platforms that run software effectively, but run standardized software environments to attract the broadest range of developers.
Yes, standardized software development, I think, is a very important factor in drawing in a lot of people, or not just the users, but also the developers. But currently, I would like to move a little back to the competition in the market and the business model and and some of the issues that Dr. Song brought up. Yes, that's all good said and done, but currently there are so many different players wanting a piece of the action, or wanting to take the lead, or wanting to create their own ecosystem.
In terms of the business model and the ecosystem nowadays, at first the network is commoditized, right? And probably device also will be commoditized. And then recently we are talking about not anymore the native app store, but web-based app store. So-called, we say that HTML5-based app store. You mentioned about that the smart TV drivers, it has been will be driven by the software, not the hardware. That's correct. And on this platform, probably network providers and device providers also, and even the content providers probably will be competing in the same platform. Some person or some company or some entity could be a good enabler for any players like application or content providers, content holders, even Netflix to play or develop their content service very well on the user base, I mean. And then in the near future, on the HTML5-based web store, web-based store, so another virtual application store, like Opera TV store. Opera TV store is already launched. So such kind of store could be a good ecosystem-based application store. I hope. not the device manufacturer, not the network providers, but the software companies probably could be a good enabler. They can also make some very convenient system based on the cloud computing, something like that, yeah.
Would anybody, yes.
So, if I understand you well, so you said that network is commoditized and hardware is commoditized, and maybe software makes a difference. I think there's a general consensus about the fact that this is the content that will make the difference. And when we say content, we all have in mind premium content, because UGC and low-value content is not bringing any money. Creating premium content is something very intensive in terms of money investment. It's very complex to be done, and the only players who have the expertise in doing so are the people from the media industry. We as a broadcaster, TF1 is the #1 broadcaster in France, we still are driving the main part of our revenue from advertising. Advertising on TV still remains such an efficient tool for advertisers and brands that can't be matched by the internet, for example. And even personalized advertising is meaningless in front of the capacity of a broadcaster to gather several million different pairs of eyeballs at a certain time in the day. So all that says that in terms of business models, first of all, we have to be sure that there is an increase in terms of market, which is not that sure, because people are paying already a lot for pay TV. The advertising market is increasing, but more at the inflation levels than anything else, and is very subject to fluctuation of the economy. So, well, I mean, I think the media industry will still be at the center of this business model. The only thing that may happen, I think, is the risk of disintermediation and the shift from some players to other ones, and the rise of Netflix is a very interesting phenomenon that we all have to scrutinize. But the fact is that Netflix is a content company, definitely.
I thought we were moving towards a general consensus, emphasizing software, and then the content provider speaks. And so I think this highlights how complicated this the market is, and how much competition there is, not just among the similar players in the industry, but from various different players in the industry. And Mr. Simpkins, you would like to talk.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. I'm glad you brought up content, because after all, this is all about content. We have a tendency to think about designing our platforms by adding features, but what we really need to do is have less features and more content, more access to it. But there is one area that I might disagree just slightly. When we talk about Netflix, Netflix isn't really a content company, but a content aggregator. And I think over time, we're going to see a shift where content creators, the cost of actually developing content on different environments significantly reduces. So the cost of producing broadcast content maybe is measured in $5,000 to $10,000 per minute. The cost of developing on a platform like YouTube, reasonably high quality content might be measured in several hundred US$ per minute. The cost of user-generated content is actually zero, right? So part of our challenge will be in making the highest quality content that consumers are really looking for, that premium content, fairly, or reducing the cost of producing it and then distributing it. And I think that's actually one of the places where smart TV can have a big impact, creating different frameworks to not only distribute but monetize different types of content and different layers of content, where you could have ultra-high premium content that might be highly personalized all the way down to the lowest quality user-generated content that's also potentially interested to a wide audience based on the availability of broad internet distribution.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sasagawa.
I'd like to clarify a couple of points. So I agree, content really is key, as we all say. But on the hardware versus the software, I wasn't trying to minimize the hardware side. I was trying to, one, talk about the benefits of having a cloud computing and a cloud service, as well as the software to enable that. But again, the hardware is still important, not only on the smart TVs, where it allows you to, as I said before, to have the intelligence to be able to communicate with the other devices. At the same time, you need to have the intelligence still in the set-top box, in these advanced gateways, to be able to provide the consumer the flexibility of receiving content, whether it is over the IP network, over the top, or it is via QAM with the legacy delivery from the service provider, and to be able to bring that into the home and offer the consumer the choice of either one. Because the consumer shouldn't have to decide how to get the content to their home. It should just be available. And so the hardware is key to enable those types of experiences where it makes it seamless for the consumer so that they can find the content, whether it is online over the top from Netflix or if it is from the service provider. And then the next step is really the other topic is the business model. I agree the business model is going to be a challenge. If you believe what consumers want is a full lineup of TV and movies and other content, then linear premium TV is still relevant. It's still obviously relevant, the full lineup. So CE manufacturers, I would expect, whether you're a smart TV or a tablet, et cetera, will want to have that content delivered to their device, in addition to the over-the-top. So with that in mind, there needs to be these new types of business models that allow the CE manufacturer to obtain some type of rev share or bounty or something like that, similar to what they're getting from some of the over-top providers, be able to have that type of revenue shared from the service provider. There's different models that folks have talked about. One is stay with that similar rev share bounty business model. There's also the other extreme where CE manufacturers would like to benefit from the potential savings of a set-top box, the potential savings of installation in a truck roll. So it's something in between, and I think that's what is going to make this really interesting market, where you can bridge the two worlds together, and the business model, I think, is one of the key ways to enable that.
Yes,
I fully
Dr.
agree with
Song,
you. Hardware is very important, especially in terms of the home networking or extended home networking service. We call it smart home. So probably we have a lot of access tools like a set-top box or TV set or home serve or access, we say, the adapter like a Wi-Fi adapter. We can probably integrate all functions in one box, right? It could be a TV set, it could be a home serve. So in the user interface, we can just develop some good remote control. Like we can use that this remote control iPad or iPhone, something like that. So I fully agree with you that hardware is still very important in terms of the connectivity at home. So yeah.
Yes, Mr. Simpkins.
I think, it's funny because we just actually identified 3 distinct important components, and maybe Jeff will add a fourth. We have the cloud, we have the content that delivers, we have the software, they have the hardware, but at the end, what we have is an ecosystem that has to optimize all of these. But there's one specific point that was made, is that there's on one axis, there's really disaggregation of content, where consumers want what they want, when they want it, where they want it. And then there's the concern that television is still about having fun and relaxing and having somebody else who's on an editorial basis figure out what content is interesting and present it to you in an interesting way. And you just brought, there was a really interesting point about using tablets and smartphones as remote controls. I think that what smartphones and tablets can do is provide extra information to help people enjoy content, but I would caution as an industry for us to turn to our smartphones and tablets as remote controls, because in a sense that takes our eyes away from the television, the hardware, the screen that is really what this is all about, the smart TV, and brings the eyes down to the phone or the tablet. So I think we have to be careful when we think about the smartphone and the tablet as the answer to the control paradigm. There's a philosopher that some of you might have heard of, Maslow, Maslow's hierarchy. Well, Maslow is the one who said, if I'm a hammer, I see all the world as a nail. And today, with the success of smartphones and tablets, a lot of UI designers are thinking that's the answer also for TV, but that will actually reduce the value proposition of smart TV. So that's something I think that we should be thinking about a lot.
Yes.
Something I would like also to add about choosing the proper program to be displayed on the TV is that usually you are several ones to decide what program to watch on the television. And having a very smart and complex tool to make this selection, and something you have for you as a personal device in your hand, might not be the best tool to make the choice within the family. And it's reinforcing the value proposition of the program schedules. At this time, I know that on this channel, which represents a very strong brand to me and to my family, I will be able to watch program that fits my family.
Would anybody like to respond to that?
At a point where I think you mentioned the different types of brands for content and also for different devices. I think it's important for it's fairly obvious, but I think folks need to understand that consumers, they want to have the choice of being able to use different types of products and different types of brands. So in this discussion of making the smart TV an intelligent solution and the platform and the SDK that enables that for a given vendor, that's key because it makes it a more intelligent device. But there needs to be a higher level solution that bridges the Sony brand with the LG brand, with the Samsung brand, with the Apple, and all these different products. So I think as we talk about how to move forward as an industry in the smart TV area, we need to ensure that these devices can communicate to each other and provide the right experience. Because if you silo within a certain brand, then you'll still be able to provide a great experience, but as a consumer, I own different brands, and I expect to be able to use my Samsung product with my LG product, with my Sony, with my Apple, and my other products. And so I think brand is important, but I think the higher level goal of making it all work together in a CE world, as well as working together with the service providers, set-top boxes, is critical.
Yes, so you're saying that no matter how great iOS is, that's just one world, and that should not be the only world. Right? But I do agree with you that we need to have. I mean the consumers would like to see things that work together well. But then that brings up the question of who gets to be in the driver's seat, leading the movement.
So working together is very important for us. I agree also. But the operators actually they are very greedy to control their subscribers on their own, the subscriber management system. So where I've just heard Samsung and LG right now meet some pay TV platform, such as satellite TV, the direct TV or cable TV or Comcast. And I also heard from Samsung man in Australia, there is a telcos-driven IPTV platform. The name is the Big Pond TV of Telstra. So such kind of companies cooperate with Samsung TV, and they just abandon their hardware set-top box, and just on the Samsung's TV set, there is a software set-top box. So they can offer their content, but not whole content, but probably some content is related to the copyright of the content providers. So some contents can be streamed by the Samsung TV platforms. Such kind of thing is a kind of cooperation model. But some operators like Comcast and DirecTV is not ready to accept this kind of suggestion because they are, incumbent players in the U.S. So then probably other some business models or some cooperation models could be created by those companies. So we should meet together, so to work together. Then probably we make some more convenient consumer focused device, I think. Yeah.
Yes, by we, I am assuming that you are talking about the various industries, not just the various players on this panel. The talk about cooperation is very good, but then the question is there enough cooperation? Is there more competition than cooperation? I guess.
So, I was just going to say, in the United States, for example, there are service providers offering the ability to use other consumer electronic devices, whether it's tablet or a game console, that allows their premium linear content to be accessed and streamed to these devices. And the goal here, again, is to ensure that you're allowing the consumer to use what they want, giving them flexibility. They purchased the certain device, and they would like to use it in their second TV room or the master bedroom, or even replace the set-top box. But there is cooperation that's starting. And, it's not comprehensive in terms of every single CE device and every SP, and that's the key challenge, is how to move from a few solutions to this widespread solution where it should be somewhat agnostic of the type of device and the brand and so forth. Allow the consumer to do that. I'll be talking about this in my session about Videoscape, how it's working with the different industries to make that happen. But it is happening in the U.S., and I think it's going to continue to grow and more.
It is encouraging to hear that there is more cooperation, probably because the necessity is more evident to the players in the industry. I guess we could move on to the last topic, which is we did mention partially the problems and issues, but Can you point to any more problems or issues that the industry is facing? Yes, Mr. Sinkis.
I think just to draw on that previous point and what Jeff said, the consumer markets and the pay TV markets have always been highly competitive, and the key thing that we all have to think about is what really will be our differentiator. Ultimately, we want to distinguish the services that each company provides from other services. What can happen if we're not careful and we work too hard to build walls between our devices or our services and other devices and other services, then it will stifle innovation in the industry, and we will ultimately not have as great a success as we're capable of having. Jeff mentioned this emerging service in the United States that allows content from a pay TV service provider to maintain its conditional access and ultimately be deployed on other devices. There was a comment earlier. Min talked about requiring some kind of commonality or standards that allows an LG TV or a Samsung TV to access the same kind of cloud service to ultimately allow content owners to have the broadest distribution platform. So the key will be to figure out where the boundary between standards and differentiation lies in the future. And that's a challenge for all of us.
Yes, I very much agree with. We are almost coming to the close of our discussion. Would anybody like to add their comments? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Professor Ahn.
Well, to me, most of the opinions expressed in this panel could be expanded or could be projected to other areas except the smart TV. I mean that if we think about the content consumption, like movie or other content consumption area, we can expand or we can project most of the opinions in this panel. Based on that, we should think about the TV again, what the TV is, what the specific meaning of the TV in the future. I think the first is that the TV is, is a big screen, has big screen. And the second one is that the TV needs high-speed, large video. I mean the high screen, big screen, and high-speed, large video. So I think we should concern on those two specific points when we think about the smart TV. And the final thing that I want to say is that to differentiate those two specific characteristics of TV, we should concentrate on the smart interface. So what kind of interface would be more beneficial to represent those two specific points? So I just want to add that the standardization effort could be helpful throughout the world. Even though the situation different between countries, depending on the regulation, but we should find out some point to be standardized. That point that I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ahn. So I think we can safely say that most of the panelists today agree on the fact that there needs to be a delicate balance between differentiation and competition, or just that right mix. But from a consumer point of view, I keep thinking about what Mr. Hastings mentioned, lying down in my living room, shouting to the TV to do whatever I wanted to do, and it giving me a just a very good experience, a simple, good experience. And I think that's what that will be your homework for the next coming years. Yes. With that, I think I would like to close this panel session. Thank you very much.